Well. It's Saturday, December 7th. Good Lord, it's going fast. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Bob Harris, and it's time for the weekly Ask Me Anything live stream. Before I get to your questions, and I see they are already there, footballguys.com. That's the website you want to go to. I appreciate you joining me here every Saturday at this time. Also on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. for On the Hot Seat. I had one of our new Football Guys staffers on, Rachel, a.k.a. Tootsie Pop, a.k.a. Tootsie Pop 6 on X this past Tuesday. So watch that replay if you get a chance. And this coming week, I'll have another great guest. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, do all that stuff. Go to footballguys.com. Tons of good content up there. My in and out column this week just arrived. So good morning, Remy. Good morning, Jeff Bolt. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate seeing everyone. Hey, Mark. Hello, Lester. Thanks for coming. I appreciate your time, man. So we'll get to the questions in a few minutes. I'm going to sort through some stuff first to get us rolling. Always an interesting comment or two. How does anything affect Marlon Mack these days? I'm not sure. Smart Alexness will get you all the attention in the world. Anthony Richardson will not be a great Anthony Richardson week. By the way, there are teams on bye that we need to be aware of. A lot of things going on. Let's go get into the news. And thanks again for everyone for coming. It's week 14. A lot going on, as you know. Oh, look at everyone's here. Good morning, Scampers. Good morning. Good morning, Rachel. Appreciate y'all coming. I am. Well, yard guys are here. If you hear a little buzzing, that's them. It's never as bad for you as it is for me. It sounds like a swarm of angry fighter planes circling around me. I feel like King Kong on top of the Empire State Building, swatting at them. So week 14, right? Like, it's getting serious. There's a lot going on that we'll need to take care of. Praying for a Sean Tucker week. That's all we can go. Jalen Reed, what happened? We'll talk. We can talk about that. That's an interesting one, and I do want to talk about that. So don't let me forget. I'm going to start this because I want to get back to this and talk about your time is virtually useless. Your time is very valuable, and I appreciate y'all giving it to me. So as I mentioned, we got teams on bye this week, as you well know. Some of them will be very good. Some of them will not. The teams we're most interested in this week, 6 teams on bye. The list is Denver, Indianapolis. So yes, no Anthony Richardson. Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the bye weeks are as follows: Denver Broncos, Indianapolis Colts. So no Anthony Richardson. New England Patriots. So I don't know. No Hunter Henry. No Drake May. He's been playing well. New England and Washington. Some good pieces there. Baltimore, some good pieces there. Houston, some good pieces there. So 6 teams: Denver, Indianapolis, New England, Washington, Baltimore, and Houston off the books. Get them out of your lineups. That leaves a lot of trickery to work through and a lot of issues to go through. And so I will discuss some of the issues that we need to have on our radar right now in advance so we can kind of set the table. And the players we need to watch out for. Quarterback, it's nothing really major going on today. It's we knew Trevor Lawrence was not going to play. We know now that he's on IR. Unlikely to see him again this year, although I think he could be returned for the last game if they really wanted him to. I don't think they will. So Mac Jones back in versus Tennessee. Boy, talking about a favorable matchup. I'm sure we'll have some Will Levis questions. The answer is probably going to be Will Levis a lot. I'm sorry. I'm a little higher on him than the field. By the way, my rankings are available. I was hoping they'd be put in the YouTube chat. But I think I have not seen them. If you see them, click on them. Otherwise, go to footballguys.com and check out my rankings. Check out the entire staff rankings. There's a consensus. You can go in and you can select the people you want to see, whose rankings you want to see. You can average the rankings if you like me and Bloom and Kluge or Alfredo or whoever, Kluge and Alfredo. You can just click those names and only see the rankings for those players. So watch for that and make use of it. And so, as the questions flow through, you pick and choose questions. Can't get to all of them. There's way too many, but I'll use some that illustrate some really good points and pivot off of and discuss some of the decision-making processes that we have. And this is going to be a very popular topic, right? Braylon Allen or Isaac Guerendo. So we'll hit some stuff like that for you as we go through. Football Guys, it is the best. So, tons of good stuff. Great articles up right now. Go check everything out. The passing matchups, rushing matchups, DFS content. Sam Wagman is killing it on the prop bets. Killing it. Man, he's having a great year. So go check out his prop bet stuff. I use some of it. I play a little bit, like to dabble a little bit. DFS content from Devin Knotts and the crew. Great stuff. So, and of course, all Bloom's work, all kinds of great stuff. Are we higher on Tony? Am I being goofy? No, you're never goofy, Lester. Pollard's a pretty high option. Let's get through the injuries here first. So to Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones back in. I know he was pretty good last week against Houston. I'm not expecting him to be good every week, right? It's just, what do we remember? We remember the last thing we saw from somebody. The last thing we saw from somebody was Mac Jones being serviceable. What we forget is the 2 games before that when he was not serviceable at all. Breece Hall listed as doubtful against the Dolphins. My guess is, I don't have a guess here, but it's something we should watch for, him being shut down, right? I mean, what do the Jets have to play for at this point? According to Rick Cimini, he has an MCL. He aggravated it, a little hyperextension. It's the same knee he's had surgically repaired. So I wouldn't be surprised if they shut him down. And Braylon Allen is a plug and play option that comes in and should have great things, right? Or at least good workload. And we've seen the ceiling for him. Like we've seen we saw him score 2 touchdowns in a single game. So we have that going on. Thanks for coming, Doug. Appreciate y'all. Jets might well be quitting. It's totally true. Do that. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you. Yeah, like some weeks you don't need advice, right? And again, not answering all the questions, but hopefully the advice works out for you. So no Breece also. Braylon Allen must play. We'll talk about Isaac Guerendo too. I think those guys are kind of like the 2 guys that are going to be the darlings this week. And Guerendo there's a lot to say for Isaac Guerendo. We've got no Jordan Mason, of course, for San Francisco, and no Christian McCaffrey. So Isaac Guerendo is going to be a big deal against Bears defense. It's been pretty generous, definitely over the last month. So we'll be watching for more on that. Have some more discussion. Bucky Irving is listed as questionable. I don't think he's actually questionable, but he's listed that way. I remember when he was questionable to return for the second half against the Carolina Panthers, and then came out and destroyed them. 97 yards in the fourth quarter. So I'm expecting him to play. Alexander Madison is listed as questionable. I think Sincere McCormick gets the lead role either way. Zamir White's out, by the way, so we'll see. If Madison's out, McCormick is probably playable. If he's in, I don't know if I'd want to bother. Even on a, look, you might not have options on a week with 6 teams on bye. Yeah, there's a league where I hung on to Guerendo like all year. I have McCaffrey and I couldn't get Jordan Mason, so I just went out and stashed Guerendo, and it's going to end up paying off. A little bit of that. By the way, there's questions. I'll talk about the DeAndre Swift, but to all the questions about grab Travis Homer, yes. There's no Roschon Johnson. I mean, Travis Homer, you're taking your chances. 3 carries, 16 yards all year. I'm not sure that, I'd want to have to rely on him, and you think the Bears will throw the ball a ton if that's the case. So, Metcalf getting rest? No, Metcalf's playing. Morning, Andon. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. All right, so Raheem Mostert questionable. More questionable is his role in this offense. He's only had 2.5 carries in the last average 2.5 for the last 4 games. No big deal. Kendre Miller could be back, and so it'll be interesting to see if we see something from him. I know the Dennis Allen seemed to be out. I don't know if Darren Rizzi is. Late afternoon games. So those were all early afternoon window games on Sunday. The late afternoon, Kenneth Walker III, is listed as questionable, and he was limited in practice, then didn't practice. Limited Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday and Friday. Mike McDonald is not sure if he'll be ready. So to answer your question, I don't know. Zach Charbonnet would be the easy answer. It's a late afternoon game. There's some obvious pivots there in the later games, maybe Kareem Hunt, if you're interested. So say your prayers, because I think you're going to need them. We'll talk about this. Any value for Israel Abanikanda? The same value as there was for Isaac Guerendo. Look, I stashed Isaac Guerendo. At some point, it's possible that, anything's possible. If you have room on your roster, I'm not against stashing anybody who has a chance to be the 49ers feature back at some point. Because you know what? Some point might come. So DeAndre Swift was the other guy in the late afternoon window that we're looking at, and he's listed as questionable. He did get on the field for a limited basis Friday, but I think he's probably a real question. So the Travis Homer questions are going to be about that. Again, you're going to want to watch the overnight news. We have a game day update page at Football Guys. It's really good. We have all kind of consolidate all the insider takes. Usually get like all the drops overnight from Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and Pelissero and Garofalo from NFL Network and maybe Jordan Schultz and a whole crew of guys out there. So we compile all that. I'll discuss it also on the radio tomorrow in the pregame show with Jeff Mans. The Football Guys lineup show will be on at the same time. You should check that out on the Fantasy Football channel, Joey Jagger, Jeff. So make sure you check that out too. So tons of stuff there. So DeAndre Swift's a big worry, and Roschon Johnson's out. So that's why the Travis Homer talk. Wide receivers, Malik Neighbors. So Malik Neighbors has turned up with a groin injury pretty much every week. That dates back to his time in college, right? And he's talked about it. He's played through it. So when he popped up on the injury report, it was initially on Thursday. It was initially said it was the groin. Well, it turns out it was a hip flexor. And it's a different injury. He was hurt Thursday and then didn't practice Friday. So this one seems truly up in the air for me. I would love to play him against the Saints, but I don't know that I can. Then in Pittsburgh, George Pickens injured a hamstring, and he was limited Friday. So, I haven't seen any local reporting that's been very definitive on it. There's a lot of uncertainty. So that's a concern, right? And then Calvin Austin should play. He's not listed on the injury report. He's coming off a concussion. So, but Pickens is a concern. And also, if he plays, well, he's just not getting a fight. Like, who is he arguing with here the other day? Like, just totally. I didn't know who he was. I don't know. George Pickens is a piece of work. And Mike Tomlin is working on him. He's talked about it a little bit, and they're not going to reveal anything. That same game, Cedric Tillman's out with a concussion, so this will be his third straight game. Jerry Jeudy, or as I'm contractually obligated by Mike Dempsey to say, the great Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore will continue to serve as the top two options along with David Njoku. In this, Michael Woods ran a lot of routes, the third most on the team last week, but I don't think he's fantasy viable, especially in this matchup. So to be fair, right? I mean, I think I should come clean. I thought the Denver Broncos would shut down Jameis Winston Monday night. Jameis Winston had other ideas. In one of the Jameis Winstonest games ever, it's passed for 500 yards. Great revenge game for Jerry Jeudy. So we had the QB1 overall in that game, Jameis Winston in fantasy last week. The wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy last week, and Jerry Jeudy. I think David Njoku was tight end 2. So it was a great one. Oh, look at Lester. I bet you do. So that's going to be an interesting game. There's maybe some pieces. Raiders, Jacoby Myers is questionable, has an ankle issue. Missed Thursday, but he came back Friday. So I think we're expecting him to play. The local observers don't seem to be too upset about this one. So we'll watch for that. The Panthers, Jalen Coker's listed for doubtful. I don't like the matchup against Philadelphia. By the way, there's a lot of guys coming back from injuries or that came off the injury report. Devontae Smith is one of them. So after he's missed a couple games with the hamstring injury, he is out, and Dallas Goedert's out. We'll talk about the tight ends in a second. Mike Evans is off the injury report, limited all week, but he didn't care. I heard him talk on, I want to say Friday, just saying he needs rest and has to, he had a big game, right? He's still working his way back from the 4-game absence, or the 3 games and then the bye, 4 games. But he's working his way up to full strength. I think, conditioning, etc. And we saw him get a huge workload last week, 100-yard game. He wants one of those every week, so he can hit the 1,000-yard mark. So he'll be playing. Alan Lazard, I think they still have to activate him. That should come today. So those are the early afternoon receivers, late afternoon wide receivers. DJ Moore, like DeAndre Swift, is questionable. And I think this is going to go right up the wire. So Keenan Allen is coming back. Look, Caleb Williams has been playing extremely well with Thomas Brown calling the plays. The last 3 games, he's quarterback 4 over that span. He's quarterback 3 over the last 2 games. And DJ Moore and Keenan Allen both inside the top 10 as fantasy wide receivers over that span. Rome Odunze kind of the outlier there. I wonder if DJ Moore doesn't play, if we won't see a lot of him. If there's no DeAndre Swift, how many times is Caleb Williams going to throw the ball against San Francisco? That's it's interesting, something to watch for. So in that same game, by the way, DK Metcalf, I saw a mention of him. He is off the injury report. Seahawks do this a lot. They hold guys out of practice early in the week. Then they come on last day and get a walkthrough and they're fine. I agree with this. Gate has been forgotten. I wonder if we'll get it. I'm liking Keenan Allen as well. 40 attempts, I think, is not outside the realm of possibility. Especially if there's no Swift. The late afternoon window continuing. Keon Coleman. The Bills are in Los Angeles. Keon Coleman is questionable. So is Dalton Kincaid in that same game. So I think Coleman comes back for this one. And I think Dalton Kincaid will. He's also questionable. By the way, Demarcus Robinson off the injury report. And so Sunday night, Ladd McConkey, Chargers and Chiefs. McConkey is questionable. I think he's going to play, but he's pretty beat up, right? Like it's the knee, it's the shoulder. I don't know. It seems like child abuse when I watch him playing. They're just pounding on him. But we'll know. But we won't know the inactives until the late window. So give yourself a fallback. Maybe one of the Chiefs outliers. Maybe Josh Palmer on his own team. McCole Hardman's questionable in that game. Monday night, CeeDee Lamb expect him to play. He's not practiced yet. Well, he was limited Friday, but expect him to go. And also on the other side, Jamar Chase came back to practice. T. Higgins has been limited for rest for a couple days, but I think he's going to play. I saw interviews with him yesterday, and the fact that he's talking to the media tells you something. I mentioned Dallas Goedert. It's out at tight end. Jatavian Sanders could return in that game from the neck injury he's had. He's questionable. Vikings will be without Josh Oliver. Or no, Josh Oliver returns this week. So I wonder if that would limit TJ Hawkinson, but probably still playing TJ Hawkinson. I mentioned Dalton Kincaid. Seems like he's going to return for the Bills. He is questionable, though, so you'll have to watch that. Monday night, Jake Ferguson, fully cleared, on track to play. I like him an awful lot this week. He is my in and out column. The Buccaneers are giving up all kinds of stuff. This is always, in fact, this has a great matchup. Chiefs are giving up, I think, the second most points to tight ends. Yes, I will be firing the dismissal when possible. This is 100% true. He looks like the kid in the kids versus mascots game. Man, just he's going to be great when he gets past puberty. Jaden Daniels week wreaking havoc. I wouldn't know. Havoc was wreaked on me in the Survivor, in the subscriber contest long ago. And there's kicker news. Evan McPherson will not play. He's on IR. So I think Cade York is his replacement. Also, there's some shenanigans in Minnesota. Sounds like we could get the old kicker back. You shouldn't be worried about kickers. You should play guys that you feel comfortable with and not guys that that have issues, right? So there's kind of the newsy kind of things that we're going through. I want to get back to a topic we were talking about. Grant, and I'll hit on some of these comments. Grant Calcaterra, it's a great matchup. The best matchup. I said that Will Dissly has the second best matchup against the Chiefs. The best matchup is against Carolina. Didn't do much for Cade Otton last week, but I think there were circumstances. That's like Bucky Irving getting 152 yards from scrimmage. That's Mike Evans getting 118 receiving yards. And by the way, yes, December 7th, the day that will go down in infamy. Go out and hit your Wikipedia or something and brush up on Pearl Harbor Day. It was it's a lot of these things like D-Day, June 6th, some of these all historical dates worth remembering. So thanks for highlighting that. Goddard's heading to IR. Scamper's breaking some news for me, and I appreciate that. I wonder if Breece Hall is. I think that's that's the one we'll be looking for. Are they going to shut down Breece Hall? We're 'tis the season to shut down guys that are beat up. So I think that's the reason. I don't know if I haven't seen this yet, Scamper, so I'm going to take you at your word. But I think that Breece Hall, that's me speculating that it's going to happen. So something to watch for. And so, we're going to talk about the Braylon Allen and the Isaac Guerendo, but I want to talk about Jayden Reed, right? Because there's a big conversation of football guys about that. Yes, Allen's a good pickup either way. I mean, Allen's a solid play. Yes, viable, but not desirable, right? Like, I mean, there's a distinction on that. But I want to go back to Jayden Reed because the guy gets a goose egg. So we had a big conversation because the projections, like, I think he's widely projected. I know at Fantasy Pros, the expert consensus ranking was like 16. I think we were a little lower on the consensus on football guys. I was the lowest of the group. I was 28. Not because I had some kind of insight, because I don't think he's a trustworthy play. But I don't think any of the Packers wide receivers are trustworthy plays. Well, here's the thing. How do you determine what a trustworthy play is? We've seen him do some great work on a little narrow band against Chicago a few weeks ago. He had 2 catches, 1 a touchdown. I mean, that's kind of his thing. You need the touchdown. But I think the way this Packers offense is working, it's kind of, you're playing whack-a-mole with the right wide receivers. This is my opinion. This is not like the consensus on football guys. This is me speaking here for myself. I think it's a circumstance where you could play any of them, right? You could. I mean, to a degree. Like if Romeo Doubs out, you could play Dontavian Wicks. If Doubs is in, I don't know that you could. But you can play Dobbs. You could play Christian Watson. You can play Jayden Reed. But you're going to have to realize there's a lot of variance on those guys because the offense is running, I think, as Matt LaFleur would love it to. And I think Matt LaFleur has wanted to since he arrived in Green Bay. He would love a strong rushing attack and big plays in the passing game. I think they tried to do that with A.J. Dillon, and it didn't quite work out. I think they have the guy that Matt LaFleur wants in Josh Jacobs, the guy that can like just drive this offense on the ground. For the most part, and they can pick and choose and make big plays. Tucker Kraft is going to be part of that, right? So again, I think I had Jayden Reed ranked 28th because yes, he's a viable, startable wide receiver 3, but set your expectations. I mentioned in one of the tweets I was going to share with you if you had questions about the secret to happiness. I am going to share with you the secret to happiness. It's easy. It's managing your expectations, right? Like if you have no expectations, you're never disappointed. You're always happy. Well, manage your expectations in fantasy for players looking at their situation. Don't assume the high end. I mean, there's a range of possible outcomes, right? There's a great outcome. And there's a horrible outcome. Manage your expectations within that range of possible outcomes. And with the Packers receivers, any given week could be a goose egg, right? That's a possibility, but the upside's there. So maybe you look at the rest of your roster, the rest of your lineup, like it's entirely possible you don't have any better choices, right? Like this week, if you were looking at this as you were going in, and so I'm big on Marquez Valdes-Scantling this week, not just because he's the new improved Marquez Valdes-Scantling who catches every pass. It's a big change for him. He hasn't always done that. In fact, he has the most drops on passes with air yards of over 30 yards than anybody during his time in the NFL. Yet here he is catching passes, and he's kind of filled that Rashid Shaheed role. So he's generally ranked like well outside the wide receiver 3 range. I'm in on him this week because it's a Giants matchup. The Giants are giving up the most completions with air yards at 20 yards or more than anyone, like 68% completion rate on those passes. Nobody else is putting up even 40, I want to say 50%. So I think this is a great matchup for him, and he plays the right role. But I mean, you don't have to play Marquez Valdes-Scantling. It's coming on a very narrow band. Well, so too is what Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is, yet still it comes, right? I mean, Westbrook-Ikhine has picked up the pace in terms of target shares, like 20% each in the last 3 games, but that's like, 5 targets? And JJ Zachariason has pointed out he's scoring a touchdown every 2.5 catches. That's like, we keep saying that's unsustainable, yet he sustains it. So if you're trying to choose between guys with that kind of similar upside, I think I'd rather have, like, if there was 1 guy on a team as opposed to like 4 guys on a team, I would probably just be just as excited to take my chances there. And then that's like Allen Lazard. I think he's got. I think he dropped Hillis. I think Lazard. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's got to be activated, and that'll probably come today. So watch for that. But like he's got that connection. He was that big play threat with Aaron Rodgers. So worth noting. I love JJ too. He's great people on and off the field. All right, so let me get to some questions. Back to the Braylon Allen and Isaac Guerendo, though. I think I have them ranked pretty highly, both solid running back 2s. Why would I have Isaac Guerendo as a running back 2? He is my in and out. because I think he could outproduce. I like Guerrero because one, the Bears is a great matchup. Two, you look at what Jordan Mason did over the first 8 weeks as the lead back there. He's a solid running back 2 every single week with some running back 1 weeks. Christian McCaffrey in his 4 games, and I don't think he was at full speed, but he was a solid running back 2 with running back 1 upside. Isaac Guerrero, we've seen him. There's been a couple games where he's got 10 plus touches. He's had over 14 fantasy points in each of those. We saw a 76-yard run against the Seahawks. I think it was week 6. He seems like a carbon copy of those guys. So I'm playing him as a running back too. I think Braylon Allen, the times we've seen him carry a good workload when Breece Hall's ailing, and we've seen him have 2 touchdowns in the same game once. I mean, that's good upside. So I'm playing those guys right like they're solid, locked in running back 2s. They could be the top running back on my team easily, and I'd be okay with that. Yes, I would play Guerrero over Najee. I think San Francisco's running game is better than New York Jets as a tiebreaker. I also think the matchup is more favorable. Chicago's been giving it up to opposing running backs. And I could share more about that with you. I have the numbers. You should go check out my in and out column. It's available every Saturday. I mentioned I'm in on Isaac Guerrero. And one of the reasons is all the things I just said, but also the Bears. They've given up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing running backs on the season, allowed 120 plus rushing yards in 5 of the last 6 games. Since week 8, they've given up 139 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. That's 3rd in the NFL. Over the last 3 games, they've given up more than 20 points to 2 different backs, and Detroit's duo combined for more than 25 last week. So it's a good matchup. I like that. So yes, a slight lean there. I'm ready for the playoffs and the ones I'm in for sure, Steve. Good morning. Thanks for coming. And thank you, everyone out in the chat, for answering each other's questions. It's a pretty trustworthy group, and I'll get to some questions now because I know you have them, and I feel like I should answer some of them on occasion. Again, I started out with this. I think he will score less points on his bye. Way to go. I appreciate the question. So this was a question I thought was interesting. If McConkey doesn't go, I plan to pledge with Hunt. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Or Edwards in the same game. I mean, I think those are the kind of options you're looking for. I think those are actually pretty good options. I don't expect Hunt to play a major role. I think we're going to see more Isaiah Pacheco, but as a fallback, if McConkey doesn't go, I think that gives you the option. A lot of quarterback questions this week. Steve Lindor wants to know point per completion in 6-point TD league. Can't decide on a quarterback this week. Wilson, Winston, Kyler, Caleb Williams, Cousins. I think the passing volume seems to be the key, which quarterback in this type of league. I think Caleb Williams is going to have a ton of volume. Kirk Cousins going up against his former team. I wonder if they're not going to have something cooking for him. So the weird thing about the Vikings, they're the most favorable matchup for fantasy wide receivers. They're not great for fantasy quarterbacks, though. They put up a lot of pressure, and Kirk Cousins has struggled with that. I'm kind of out on Cousins. I would like to see him fare better before I get in. It's been pretty miserable. I mean, y'all know the numbers. Last 3 games, 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Hasn't kept Drake London from being productive, though. And I think this matchup, I'd still be playing Drake London, not in on Cousins. But Caleb Williams, I think, will get the volume. I think my rankings would probably be just in general in a regular scoring league: Kyler, Caleb, Wilson, Winston, and Cousins. And then Andy Herman has one here where I'm including Will Levis. I have Will Levis ranked higher than the field at Football Guys. And again, go check out the Football Guys. So 2 things. Do 2 things. Here's what I do, because if you aren't aware, I have a show on Sirius. Hi, I'm Bob Harris. Good to meet you. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time till midnight. Saturday night, I'll be on tonight from 8 to 11 on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel. And I'll be on Sunday with Jeff Mans for 2 hours, the pregame show, 11 to 1. But so we take tons of calls, and Mike Dempsey, my co-host, and we dissect the rankings, and we compare and contrast them with the projections. So there's 2 distinct things going on at Football Guys. You can get the raw projections from our team of projectors who are fantastic. Jason Wood, Morrill Tremblay, Justin Freeman, Sigmund Bloom, Bob Henry. They do fantastic work. Bob Henry doing the rest of season projections as well. And so those projections are what everybody's rankings are based on. Then we all go in and we adjust the rankings to meet to how we like them, right? So I don't necessarily stick with the projections, but I like the raw projections because I think over the course of the last 20 years, they've proven to be really effective. So I like to lean into those a fair amount, and I lean heavily on them when I do my rankings. But also, like, I have hunches on guys, and Will Levis is a guy that I feel like it's a great matchup, and I'm really aggressive going against matchups. And part of this is, Kevin, yikes. Are you frightened? Is there something I'm scaring you? Mooney has been quiet. Lester's fading Mooney, and it scares me. Oh, that's the yikes. Mooney has been quiet. It's Kirk Cousins has been quiet, right? It's just like, and what about Kyle Pitts? Kyle Pitts a goose egg last week. I don't think he's had over 5 points in the last month. So yeah, I think those are reasonable concerns. But back to Will Levis. I think Will Levis is my quarterback 8. So, like, a couple things I try to do with my in and out column. Go read it. It's available right now at Football Guys. I'm trying to be a little more edgy. I'm trying to game the projections. That's difficult because the projectors are great, right? So we have Tua projected as, I think, quarterback 8. I like Will Levis as quarterback 8. I have Tua back down to, like, I want to say 11. Tua's been rolling, right? He's been fantastic. His history against the Jets is not great. And I think it's a little easier to run against the Jets, although Sauce Gardner could open the door. He's doubtful, I think, for this game. So this is interesting because Aidan O'Connell is the quarterback I'm in on, right? And it's a great matchup for him against Tampa Bay. I'm leaning slightly Levis over Aidan O'Connell. Aidan O'Connell is my in at quarterback this week in my in and out column. He's like projected to be quarterback 21. I think that's way low. I think that's way off. He was quarterback 10 against the Kansas City Chiefs defense last week, throwing a great deep ball, has a couple great weapons in Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, the most overlooked man in football. No, Parker Washington is a dangerous flex option, but he is an option. I agree with this. This is true. I don't know if it's a culture, but it's not good. It's definitely true. So that could be a little bit of an opening. It's interesting how the Miami Dolphins offense is kind of morphed into a, from being led by the outside assets, the Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane. I want to say the Giants are a really tough matchup against tight ends, right? I should check that because I heard that. I heard that from Mike Dempsey. Let's see what they've done. We have all these tools available at Football Guys. You could go to the tools, check up. You can check and see how various positions have done against every team, against single teams. So the Giants are giving up the second fewest points to tight ends in the league. 7.9 points per game. I think this is more of a downfield passing game. So the other thing about Juwan Jennings that I want to remind people, how many catches did the starting tight end there, Taysom Hill, have? Not very many, right? And I know he wasn't really tight end. But it's not like, I think he had like 27 catches. I don't think there's like I don't think he gains a lot of headroom there from having Taysom Hill going away. I think the roles are pretty well defined. So I think Elijah Moore has a more consistent role, and I don't like Adam Thielen's matchup this week. Scroll back up to the top and catch up with some of the early questions. Oh, so many. Corey needs a miracle to make the playoffs. Have to aim for high ceiling versus boom week. High ceilings for boom week. Desperation at running back 2. Tyjae Spears at Jacksonville. Kamani Vidal at KC. Ray Davis versus the Rams. Alexander Madison if he plays. Davis is none of these guys are what I expect booms from, but I think if you got one, it would be Davis. Guessing, he said. So I don't know if I ever answered this. I'd probably end up starting Kyler Murray, but I think Will Levis is in the conversation. Jameis should be in every conversation. After what he did against the Denver defense last week, it's ridiculous. This is how you ask questions. This is an old schooler, CPD 13, old school guy. PPR, Keenan Allen at San Francisco or Mooney at Minnesota, also with Tillman down, Elijah Moore or Thielen. Probably playing Elijah Moore over Thielen. I like Thielen. I think he'll be fine down the stretch. I'm not keen on him this game. So I'd probably play Moore there. But I play Keenan Allen over Mooney right now. Again, Keenan Allen, like wide receiver 6 over the last 3 games. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be persistent, but I think a solid role, tons of targets, especially in this game, especially if there is no DeAndre Swift, it would be even more so. Start 2 in a standard league. So I would start Keenan Allen as one of them, and then it's between Jacoby. Like I prefer Jacoby Myers in a PPR. I might go ahead and go with Brian Thomas Jr. in a standard league. Just like Brian Thomas Jr. can score any given play, right? That's the thing. I mean, so could Jacoby Myers. I'm not saying Brian Thomas has that game-breaking speed. I'm like not enthusiastic about Mac Jones coming back in as quarterback, but that's probably the direction I'd go. Remy needs to start too. And by the way, if I don't get to your question, go to the rankings. Read the rankings instead of me reading my rankings to you. This is the other thing about the rankings. Let's talk about this for a second. Like, like the rankings are a linear list of players that is really a list of tiered players, right? This is a dirty little secret that everyone knows, right? Like I'm looking at the range of guys. Like if I have a guy ranked between 12 and 24, I think he's a 2 at his position, right? Or 1 to 12. I think he's a capable 1. After that, like just because someone's ranked outside the top 36 doesn't mean you can't play him. Also, just because the guy is ranked lower than another guy, there are circumstances where I would play the lower ranked guy over the higher ranked guy. What are those circumstances? Why would I do that? When would I do that? Well, I would do that depending on my roster build, or maybe depending on what my opponent is doing. Or did they already start? I'm in a league against JJ Zacharyson where he started Tim Patrick. I'm 22 points in the hole, right? Is that going to make me make some adjustments? It might. I might have to reconsider. Do I need more of a swing for the fence play or a higher floor play? All these things matter. So when I sit here and we talk about the rankings, go look at the rankings, read my rankings, but your own situation, circumstances, your own levels of risk tolerance, all these are going to come into play. I had a comment after last week's chat that I wasn't helping anybody because I didn't say definitively, or someone asked me a question between 2 players and I said, I would play this guy, but if you want to play the other guy, it's okay. And they said, oh, that doesn't help anyone. Well, I think it does, right? Like it's your team. I'm going to tell you who I'm going to play, but it's your team. You get to decide. And so I think so many questions and like oftentimes the way the questions are framed, we had a caller on the radio last night who said, you like the questions usually give me the answer or what the caller wants the answer to be. And often your questions do the same thing, right? And I think a lot of the questions are just, am I crazy or what is it crazy to do something? And most of like 99% of the time is no, it's not crazy. Do that thing you want to do. It's your team. I talk about it all the time too, playing your hunches over my hunches. I have hunches this week. Like I have concerns about Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know if they'll play out. That's my hunch. I like Aiden O'Connell this week. I think that's a pretty good hunch, right? Like Bijan Robinson in DFS. Like he's got the toughest matchup for running backs going right now. I'm probably going to dial back and not pay up in DFS. That doesn't mean I wouldn't start him in season long. I'm going to start the heck out of him in season long, but I'm going to set my expectations a little differently. And maybe I need to make some adjustments on the rest of my lineup that go outside of what my rankings would say. So, rankings are great. And I want you to go read my rankings, use my rankings, but also compare them to the raw projections. Compare my rankings to other staffers' rankings that you trust. Or if you don't trust my rankings at all, go trust the other rankings. You can cut me out of the rankings or just use the consensus of everybody's rankings and cut out the guys that you don't trust, like me. So very useful. So anyway, PPR running back question. Non-PPR league, need to start 2 running backs from Braylon Allen versus Miami, Najee Harris versus Cleveland, Tony Pollard versus Jaguars. I'm going to go with Braylon Allen, the target of opportunity. I think sometimes we get stuck on that. Braylon Allen, Isaac Guerendo. Oh, wow, they're new guys coming in, and I want to start them. I'm starting them for what they are. I think you have 2 running back 2-level plays here and a flex level play in Najee Harris. Last time they played Cleveland, 2 weeks ago, was it week 12? Najee Harris didn't have a great game. Jaylen Warren was way busier. I don't think that precludes Harris. It just adds a level of uncertainty that I don't want to deal with. I prefer the certainty of Braylon Allen. I know Isaiah Davis is there, but I expecting Allen to get the primary role, and we've seen what he can do with that. Same with Isaac Guerendo, right? Again, we've seen him. I think he has like 10 explosive plays this year and unlimited action. I think I might have overstated that. Let me revisit that. According to Pro Football Focus, he has 5 explosive runs, 10 yards or more, 4 of which were designed runs that exceeded 15 yards. So there's something to hang our hat on with those guys, in addition to coming into a sudden role. But I mean, the role is most important. Volume is king, and I think they're going to get the volume. Najee Harris, I mean, and I want to say last week, the game, and credit if you're not out there reading Nathan Yonke's piece at Pro Football Focus every week, his recap of the games, it's fantastic. Gives you some details and insights. Like we saw a lot of Cordero Patterson for a series or two, and it was because Najee Harris was on the sidelines getting some medical treatment. People are wondering, why not Jaylen Warren? Well, because it looks like Cordero Patterson would be the direct handcuff if something were to happen to Harris. But either way, it's a split workload there. So, and it's less split for Tony Pollard, and it's a good matchup. And Braylon Allen, same. Start 2, PPR, Dowdle, Thielen, Braylon. I'm starting the running backs here. Rico Dowdle's another guy, man. Don't overlook what he's been doing. It's easy. So, we see things early in the season and they persist in our mind. Like, oh, this defense really sucks. Well, by the middle of the season, it's evolved and it no longer really sucks. Washington is a defense that comes to mind that early on was horrible. Then they got tough. Then they got a little less tough, right? So it's like riding a wave. The things ebb and flow. So pay attention to that. But pay attention to Rico Dowdle. He's got over 85% of the running back carries for Dallas in each of the last 2 games. He's become a viable play in a game against Cincinnati. By the way, on the other side of the football, Chase Brown, if you haven't been paying attention, gets almost, I think it was 100% of the running back touches for 3 straight games. Then I think last week it fell off to like 92. That's ridiculously good numbers. Yes, yard guides. I hope you can hear me because I can't hear me. Kyler Jameis, I'm playing Kyler. I don't like the matchup, but again, Jameis seems to be pretty matchup proof. He's getting great volume. So if that was your preference, I would understand. I'm playing Kyler still. I'm thinking Moore has another shot at a good game, big game too. Start 3, Dowdle, Swift, Guerendo, or Braylon. I'm going to probably just go ahead and sit Swift, right? I don't love the matchup. He's questionable. So even if he plays, he goes in hurt. I think the decision will be made for you. But even if it's not, I would play 3 healthy guys with solid roles for sure. Oh, look, Andrea's here. Hello, Andrea. Thanks for coming. Andrea giving me the inside scoop on the weather last week in Buffalo. Most appreciated. Thank you, Scampers. I appreciate that. I've watched the replay a few times, and it is thunderous. It is so loud right now. I can barely hear myself. But it doesn't seem to come through on the mic. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the confirmation on that. I like the Cardinals defense too. That's something I saw. Sometimes the chat moves so fast I can't keep up, and I swing and miss. Someone said something about the Cardinals defense. I like them too. They've been playing well. Rachel said that. They've been doing well. It's been a strong run. There's been no rhyme or reason. I would agree with that. I don't think the pattern, I don't think it's sticky in terms of we'll see him continue playing if nothing happens to Najee Harris, right? But if something happened to Najee Harris, I don't know. I think we'd see a heck of a lot more Patterson. But let's hope nothing happens. Adam thinks that's the issue. Adam thinks it's a Steeler Najee week. Seriously doubt Neighbors plays. It's an odd situation, right? Like, so I was pretty optimistic. I want to say on Thursday when we first heard about this, because it's the same groin thing, and he's talked about it. He says he's played through it since he was at LSU, and it's never kept him from playing. This is a different injury. They're saying it's a hip flexor. Look at Lester go. All right, let me get back to some questions here. One team not making the playoffs with Davis Mills finishing his 1-year contract is worth the flyer for him. Like, I don't know that I'll ever expect him to be a starter. Like, if you have room on a roster, everyone's like, I have guys that I can't even, and probably including Davis Mill on rosters in dynasty leagues that at some point I'll have to clean out. But like, I wouldn't be actively pursuing him. But like, again, like, and I know I'm going to get a comment after this ad. That doesn't help anyone. Like, we're having a discussion here. That's the point of all of this. Like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You know what you want to do. I'm here to tell you what I would do and to maybe give you some information that might help you make a better decision. If you think I'm here to tell you what to do, think again, kids. This is great, though. Love this comment. So these are the kind of questions that we have to deal with, right? And the kind of decisions we have to make that I think are important. Do we think DeAndre Swift is playing? I think it's probably like 50-50 at best. I'm going to say 60-40 against, but let's give it the 50-50. You know, that means there's a pretty good chance he doesn't play. So do you decide whether it's better to start Nick Chubb in the early game or Swift in the flex? So, and then your other option is Xavier Worthy. So Xavier Worthy, last time they played the Chargers, had 3 catches for 70 yards. It was a great game. The Chargers aren't great against the deep passes, but now they have DeAndre Hopkins. They have more options. But here's the thing. Xavier Worthy would keep you from taking a 0, right? I think that would be my assessment. So then do I think DeAndre Swift gives me that much advantage? Is the risk of rolling with DeAndre Swift and possibly having to play Xavier Worthy outweigh the value of playing Nick Chubb? Nick Chubb 2 weeks ago scored 2 touchdowns against the Steelers. Gets good volume. Jerome Ford looked better than him last week. There's no doubt about it. But maybe that was the way the game went. I mean, it was just a pass-heavy game. Maybe we get a different game script in this one, and then they lean into the run. It's Nick Chubb's first game back in Pittsburgh since he blew up his knee in Pittsburgh. You think they'd like him to get a touchdown in this game? I do. So I think if I was weighing this out, for me, it would be Chubb, and I would just not avoid the worry altogether because I don't think DeAndre Swift gives you the high end that makes it worth taking the chance on having to play Worthy. I hope that, but that's the process, I think, for me. You may come to a different conclusion with your process, but that should be the process. I think this is a great question because it's the reason why I start out the show. I'm reading you the injuries in order because it's important to know who your fallback options are or who you need fallback options for. So great question, MJY147. Appreciate that. Nick Westbrook-Akini is insane, man. It's been insane. This would be ideal, right? Like if Will Dissly's available, and he may well be, this is such a great matchup for him. If you go read the Polarizing Players article this week, Gary Davenport and I do that. It's out every Friday. I talk at length about Will Dissly. I often talk at length about Will Dissly. I am always looking to fire the dismissal. This is a great game to do it. And ideally, he would be the ideal pivot for McConkey. Dissly has over, I want to say, the last 4 games, like he was shut out last week. So maybe people dropped him or moved on from him. He hadn't been shut out much. He's got a 15% target share on the year. I think over the last handful of games, it's like 18%. So that's worthwhile. Oh my goodness. Release the Penix. We may see that before too long. By the way, if you just tuned in, thanks for coming on. Bob Harris. Damn glad to meet you. Footballguys.com. That's the website. Find all my articles there. The Fantasy Notebook is free to everybody every week on Thursday. The Polarizing Players article I mentioned, the collaboration with the great Gary Davenport every Friday. My In and Out, which is kind of, what do we call it? Stealthy plays and uncomfortable fades. I like to call it logic-based hot takes. Right. So go check that out. That's available every Saturday. We got news and information. Sign up for the free daily email update. It's fantastic. We'll give you articles, give you the news of the day from me, Sigmund Bloom, Cecil Lammy. Joe Bryant sends it out every day. It's great stuff. So make sure you get it. But subscribe to the site as well. Tons of content. Mountains of content. 3 different YouTube channels. The Dynasty channel. You see a lot of Jeff Bell and Jagger May there. The Fantasy Football channel. A lot of Dave Kluge and Alfredo Brown there, a little bit Joey Wright everywhere. The Audibles channel, where you'll find me, Sigmund Bloom, and Cecil, of course. The old heads, Cecil and Sig, been doing this show for 19 years. Their show on the Audible, so check that out. The Couch is there, resides there, so tons of good stuff. Mike Dempsey and I do a podcast every day. I do it alone Monday, covering the injuries, but it's the Daily Update podcast, 10 minutes every morning, just kind of to set the tone, let you know what you need to watch for throughout the day, kind of help you keep up with things if you have a busy schedule. We've got you. We've got you. So check all that out. Check me out on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 to midnight, Saturday night, 8 to 11. Tonight, it will be the great John Lobb, my former colleague at footballguys.com or footballdiehards.com. We'll be on Jamie Calandro. We'll be on to talk DFS as well. And I want to say, what is our game of the week? I don't know what our game of the week is. We'll have a couple beat writers on. So check me out. If you're not familiar with my work, you can find it all on the X at Football Diehard, on the Blue Ski at Football Diehard, or just search my name at the burgeoning social media site there. I'm on there and I'm posting my content there as well. So hope to see you somewhere to say hi. And this is the goal. And again, I'm always sorry when I can't get to everyone's questions, but it's just become impossible at this point to get all of them. And I know some of you in the chat are out there. Trust people in the chat. Ooh, what's this? Dissly dropped? I'm stacked at tight end. It's a 3 flex though. I'm not against this. Cecil Lammy would like us all to stay frosty. Appreciate that. How about Njoku or Smith in a PPR? I'm going Smith. I think like down the stretch, there's 3 tight ends I would play every single week. It's Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and Jonnu Smith. I like David Njoku, and every time I'm out on him, he makes me look like a fool. And he's very good, but I think that those 3 are the apex guys. And then like you can have the discussion about Kittle, Kelsey, right in that next tier, and Njoku's right there up against that tier. I agree with this. I think it's a tough matchup, but last week was as tough a matchup as you get in Denver. So Jameis. He was like, as one of the comments said, super entertaining player. Love watching him. Love what he does. The thing for me about Jameis Winston to the Browns is, look, Nick Chubb is not all the way back. Not all, like, I think next year we'll get something close to the full Nick Chubb experience. Still like the volume, still like the goal line work, etc. But man, Jameis is throwing the ball a lot. Like Denver was ridiculous a lot. But even before that, in the first 3 games he started, it was 41, 46, and 46. Fantastic. I can tell you they are very enjoyable and exactly what they are. Yes, I would probably play Caleb over Herbert myself. I think Caleb's in for a big game, and he's been super effective. He missed it earlier in the program. He's been quarterback 4 since Thomas Brown took over. What's been the shift? He's getting the ball out of his hands quicker, right? I think that's the primary thing. He had taken 40, almost 50 sacks up to this point. He's getting the ball out of his hands quicker. It works really good for him. Winston, QB1 rest of season. Come on now. You can pick and choose. I see a thing about drones. I'm fascinated by the drones. What do you think about the drones, everybody? What do we think about the drones? Like over New Jersey. I think they're ours. There's only one answer. If they weren't ours, we'd be blowing them up. They're ours. They're super secret something. Anyway, that's my conspiracy theory of the day. But I'm fascinated by the drones. Like, how do we not know? The only way we don't know is they're ours. There. How about that? Rachel, 2 out of Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, Tyrone Tracy, DJ Moore, Rashad White. Since I don't know if DJ Moore is going to play, I'm probably going with Chuba and Tyrone Tracy. If I knew for sure Moore was going to play, it'd be Moore, but I don't know that. Drop Bigsby or Vidal. I think Bigsby's role is more defined, but like if you have a feeling about Vidal or think his upside is going to show up at some point, I'm not against it. Bad ownership. Ownership matters. You know what else matters? Something I've talked about recently is finding the right coach GM combination. Look at the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have figured things out and have taken this team in a direction. I'm going to say another one is Houston, where we have Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans. Not all in on their states on Al-Shaair, but I am in on what they're doing with this team. The Jags, on the other hand, the Jets, on the other hand, the Bears may get there. Like they seem to believe in Ryan Poles, maybe get him the right coach, but it takes that dynamic combination of coach and GM working together. I don't know that we're seeing it in New York, but I think the Giants think they might have it in Shane and Dable. And we'll see. Maybe they'll get another year. The Jets definitely haven't had it. But I mean, I think that's the key to me is finding that right combination. You look in like Los Angeles, whatever you think of Sean McVay, he and Thomas Dimitroff have a really good working relationship and it works out. I think you're going to see it in Atlanta with Farmer and Morris. So I think it does take, like Scamper said, but Jaguars need to clean house. Like Trent Baalke, you hear rumors that like some coaches would like to go there. They like what they see in Trevor Lawrence, but they don't want to work with Trent Baalke. I think we'll see him going. Patience and conviction by owners, like that's what we see in Pittsburgh, right? They're like, I'm very old. There have been 3 Steelers coaches my entire lifetime, right? Or in my memory. There's something to be said for that. 100% true. 100% true. Let's see. What did I miss that I needed to get on? There was something I wanted to get on because Ann comes here dutifully and asks me questions, and I think I've answered none of Ann's questions, although I think I've seen them get answered, so I hope so, Ann. Hit me up on Twitter if I didn't get to your question, Ann. DM me. This is something that we need to be careful for, like making panic moves, making, outsmarting ourselves. I think as we head into the playoffs, this is probably the biggest thing that we tend to do, right? Is outsmart ourselves. That's why I get a lot of questions like, is it crazy to do this? And, I try to give you a temperature check on that. But this is something I think we're all guilty of it, right? It's like a natural tendency. We start looking a little closer, like maybe this week with Will Levis, I'm like throwing and I am aggressive and I need to I need to know that about myself. Like sometimes I'm over aggressive on matchups. I'm definitely over aggressive on players, right? How else do you explain Anthony Richardson? I think a lot of us in this business who do this are like a year or 2 years early on players because we see the potential there, but we don't have the patience or the ability to say, oh wow, this is going to take some time, right? But be careful about making stupid roster moves or be making rash decisions or making decisions in the moment. Jeff Mans, my co-host on the Sunday show on Sirius, would tell you to have your depth chart and don't vary from it. I'm a little bit more flexible, I think, but he's not wrong, right? Like you sit there and you've been playing, like if I have Lamar Jackson, I have a league where I have Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. I play Lamar Jackson every week, regardless of the matchup, right? And I'm probably going to keep doing that. I don't want to outsmart myself and start saying I can predict the future with the accuracy and granularity to say this week Jaden Daniels is going to get 10, a point more than Lamar Jackson. I'm just going to play it smart and play Lamar Jackson every week. Does that mean I'm going to have the outcome I want every week? No, but I'm playing the odds. And that's something we need to remember about our fantasy football teams. We're playing the odds, right? And that's part of making the smart decisions. Can your hunches pay off? 100%. And I hear you out there going, man, I did this and it worked for me. And I know it can work sometimes. And we keep telling you, Nick Westbrook-Akine is like, it's unsustainable, yet he keeps sustaining it. Well, it is unsustainable. There's going to come a point where he can't keep going because you don't catch a touchdown every 2.5 passes in the NFL. If he does, it'll be some kind of record. And is it possible? Yes. Are the odds that he will do that? Absolutely not. The odds are absolutely not that he'll do that. Who was on the show? We had somebody on the show last night. When was it? Talking about this. And it's like, playing, going up to the roulette wheel and playing black and black and black and keep hitting. And at some point it's going to change, but you keep betting it. And then when you lose everything, you feel bad. This is key. Not a never bench your studs, right? Your studs can change a little bit and things evolve over the course of the season, but definitely don't get cute. Definitely don't get cute. Nobody has ever accused me of being cute. I'm Bob Harris. I will be back here Tuesday night for On the Hot Seat with another great guest. Again, go back and watch watch this week's with Rachel. We have a lot of good information there still available for you. Good luck in your playoffs this week. I hope you have a fantastic week, super successful week. This is it for the buys. Then we'll have to start navigating the even trickier part. Who's going to start shutting players down? This is totally not true. We'll start having to worry about players getting shut down or teams starting to take their foot off the gas or other teams accelerating even more. So there we have it. Appreciate you coming here every week. And I'll be back here also next Saturday as well. Go to footballguys.com. Tons of great content there. Subscribe to the premium content. There's 3 different tiers. You'll love it all. If not, just get the free daily email update. Everything you need every single day sent right to your inbox. You can't go wrong. Listen to the Daily Update podcast. Listen to me on Sirius tonight, 8 p.m. on NFL Radio and on the Fantasy Channel, 8 to 11. I'm Bob Harris. Over and out. Good luck this week.